Today we celebrate the third Sunday of Lent. The Church teaches us that Christ is the fullness of the law and the wisdom of God. And he is also the fulfillment of God's commandment. Today also we are called to rededicate ourselves to Christ. And in the first reading, God gives the 10 Commandments to Moses at Mount Sinai. If you look at the law, we have what we call the divine law, or the law of God. Then we also have the natural law. We have the human law. If you look at the law of God, it looks like a set of don'ts. You know, do not kill, do not steal, do not lie, do not covet, do not commit adultery. And if you read them, you may think that, God is taking away our freedom. And this is where there is a difference between the law of the state and the law of God. A law of God is a command that we are called, to obey. But the law of the state, somebody has to be put there to make sure that we follow it. And if we don't follow, they will come for us. But the law of God, it's not like that. And the question I would like to ask you today is, what is the purpose of the law? There are sometimes people who feel that the law is meant to burden us or to limit our freedom. I have also met people who are so angry with the law. And when I speak about the law, I'm talking about the law of God. The law is meant to make us wiser by opening our eyes. The law is meant to strengthen our relationship with God and organize social and religious life. In the 10 Commandments, God was doing two things. He was giving us an instruction, and he was also communicating himself to us. And his communication is on the first line. Before you say the 10 Commandments, God says, I am the Lord your God. Then he says, worship no other God. And it is also an instruction of what we should not do. And another reason is, why do we keep the commandment of God? Do we keep them because they are imposed on us? Or because we are afraid to go to hell? Is that so? Are we afraid of hell? That's why we keep the law of the Lord? Not so. We keep the law of the Lord because we trust and love God. That is the primary reason why we keep the law of God. If this law was imposed on us, then it will have taken, we can really say that our freedom has been taken away. And I would ask the young ones who are here today. The fourth commandment says that obey your father and your mother. Does obeying your father, does obeying your mother take away the freedom from you? Does it? So when they tell you something, just know that you are doing it out of freedom of will. It is not a force. When your mom, when your dad tells you to do something, you should do it running, very fast, happily. And Jesus Christ brought the new law. But something very unusual with Jesus today. He enters the temple and he starts forcing everybody out, knocking over tables, chairs, and even spilling out the money. Is Jesus becoming violent? We always think of Jesus as a smiling, calm, peaceful man. So when someone says, when you read Jesus was flogging people in the church, you think that something went wrong somewhere. But Jesus says, this is my Father's house, not a marketplace. Out of all this, Jesus was reminding the people that God's house is a place for prayer. It's not a marketplace. And by this, the people had forgotten that God's house is a place where we go for prayers. I remember when we were young ones, when we were growing, we were being prepared to receive the first communion. The first thing we were told is that when you enter into a Catholic church, the first thing you do, before even looking for where to sit, is to look for where the red light is. And we know our red light on this church is there. And we were told that if you are young enough, you have the energy, you should kneel facing the light, because that is where Christ is. Our Catholic church is not a hall, No. It's a place where God dwells. So when we enter, we face the tabernacle and we kneel or we genuflect. Or for those who have one problem or the other, we bow. How do you enter the church? Like a marketplace? Just like, what is the difference between when you are coming to the church and when you enter in the store? What is the difference for you? Hello? Is there any difference? Do you feel there is something happening with you? Or you just come and you go straight to your seat? Do even before you pass where the altar is, whether you are on the back or you are in front here, do you always recognize that you are not the most powerful person, but it is Christ, by bowing? Or we just pass? This is what Christ was reminding the people, that the temple is not a marketplace. It is a place for prayer. And when we come to the church, when we come inside here, the best thing we can do, the best respect we can give to God, is to keep quiet and to offer our intentions before the Mass begin. Though sometimes I know we meet and we start having a discussion how the week was, On the second part, Christ says that, destroy the temple and in 3 days I will build another. The worship of God will not be centered in the temple in Jerusalem, but the worship of God will be in spirit and in truth. Destroying of the temple will happen on the 3 days Jesus stayed in the tomb. That is the 3 days he was speaking about. And St. Paul, in the second reading, says that to the Corinthians, to the Jewish, the crucifix or the cross was a stumbling block. And to the Romans or to the Gentiles, it was foolishness. But to us, the cross, or seeing Jesus hanging there, it's not a scandal, but it is a sign of victory. The victory that by raising Jesus from the dead, a new foundation was laid. Because Jesus said that, destroy the temple and in 3 days I will build another one. And therefore, when Jesus rose from the dead, a new foundation of this new temple was built. Today, we are a community of believers who form part of this new holy place where God lives. God dwells in our hearts. Every time we walk, wherever we are going, whether we are at home, whether we are at work, we are moving with Christ. We ourselves represent Him because we are part of the foundation of the temple that Christ built. The Lord be with you.